The title Alcohol and Poverty seems to reinforce the polarization of our view of alcohol, which is, on the one hand, there is this relaxation, fun, joy, enjoyment. On the other hand, terrible things like disease, death, poverty, and you try to balance this. It's a totally misconceived dichotomy. And that's what I want to emphasize and to submit at the start itself the idea that for nearly all consumers of alcohol, in talking about poverty, nearly all consumers of alcohol are rendered poorer through their alcohol use. Because most people use alcohol in the stupidest possible way. And I'm hoping that we can spread, as psychiatrists, a little more light on how we can consume alcohol more intelligently. And in this, I would like you to process what I'm saying and disagree and contemplate, in the hope that these contemplations might actually lead to better ways of talking about alcohol and better ways of consuming. And in this, I would ask you to think about your own consumption. Your own consumption, those who consume, and if you are a non-consumer, or call yourself a non-consumer, I mean all these non-consumers also consume alcohol, unaware. Any little thing that has fermented for 5 minutes, well, not 5 minutes, 5 days, say, contains alcohol. And we say, I don't touch alcohol. Everybody who doesn't touch alcohol drinks it. But more often, they eat it with food and overripe fruit and so forth. So we keep consuming this while we call ourselves up. What we mean by abstinence is we don't consciously consume beverage alcohol. Right? Think about your own consumption and the consumption of somebody that you know well if you don't consume beverage alcohol consciously. In these thinking, the appeal here is do not drink in ways that render you poorer. Do not let alcohol make you poorer. And by poverty, I don't mean only poverty in money terms, right? Poverty is of all these other things that I have listed, and many more. Good sex, right? Alcohol spoils good sex at the time you are drinking, after intoxication, and generally in life. Alcohol diminishes self-worth if you drink it in the wrong way or drink it with the wrong people, and so on. My major interest is not about money poverty, but I think the invitation for this came because of some publication of mine that the college had noticed and about alcohol and poverty. But this business about money poverty is not to be ignored. It's not to be ignored. For example, the poorer you are generally, the higher the percentage of your income that you spend. This is a study on combined alcohol and tobacco use. And this is not really what I want to focus on, but because the word is poverty, I just want to just put this up and say, we tend, especially if we are comfortably off, not to recognize the horrendous negative effects of alcohol consumption, secondarily on families and the poorer they are, the more badly affected they are. Now, just some points of theory. Not only in drinking and money terms, but the more you consume, the poorer you get in all these other forms of poverty that I was referring to earlier. Now, the converse of this is not the direct converse, but something else that I want to put as the converse, which is that the less you consume, the greater the enjoyment of the event. Unless you're one of the very few at the extreme who tune into the enjoyment aspects of drinking only when they are drunk. This is a small number, the numbers that are reliant on alcohol to achieve conditioned mood states. The rest of consumers achieve these conditioned mood states the moment they take the glass in hand. Observe yourself and observe your nearest and dearest if you don't consume it yourself, and recognize when people start feeling good. People start feeling good while their blood alcohol is 0. Most people who consume and enjoy alcohol start feeling good while their blood alcohol is 0. When they start to experience the effects of alcohol, they feel uncomfortable. That's about an hour and a half sometimes into the session. Api then kamune gihilla, that's the time that they're actually becoming intoxicated. Now there are some other few who consume till they become intoxicated and are able to switch on only at that point. The rest have to hang around till they reach the blood alcohol levels that triggers their conditioned positive responses, which the others have already experienced 1 hour ago. Take these on your own observations rather than my statements. The second aspect of this is that drinking in the correct way is to drink in groups that are nice to be in. There is a tendency for fools to dominate drinking settings. That is what renders them so boring and tedious. We have to pretend to enjoy the humor, the humorless humor of people who make this the excuse to go on blabbering things that are not funny. And to force yourself to appear funny or amused is terrible. Watch what you do next time with a fool in your group, right? All these can be changed without much difficulty. Even worse than the fools are the knaves, the nasties, right? Now, in our settings, we don't have these categories, psychiatrists and so forth. But generally, in groups that you sometimes may be unfortunate enough to habituate, there are such individuals. It's up to the group, including yourself, to make these settings decent. Right? Make them enjoyable for everybody, not for the fool and not for the louts. Right? We are all robbed of this opportunity, which the drinking setting allows, by allowing the dominance by fools and by nasties. Another little point of theory is that all our beliefs about alcohol, all the positive beliefs that we have about alcohol, I would say are those planted by the alcohol trade. This is from BBC news site last week. The whole story is 103-year-old twins. Imagine that's 206 years together from the total of that they have lived. The gist of the story on BBC is the secret of their long life. And right at the top, you are told, they have said, it's my tipple in the night. I take a shot in the evening, and that's really why. Now, the impression you get by reading the headline bit is, these people have lived so long because of drinking, and they are saying so. But very low down in the story, you find that one of the women said this. Right? It's not even a common factor between the two of them. Even if it was that presentation as a causal factor in their longevity, is the alcohol consumption, is still false. But this is ludicrous. This is what we get. BBC, ladies and gentlemen, friends, is a good source to learn what do those who control humanity want us to think. They're not allowed to say things, well, not that they are not allowed. They do not say things that the empire's controllers don't want said. What are we being trained to believe in? Find out, just look at the BBC. And of course, these things are worth talking about because they are things we can reverse. Which brings now from theory to practice. And there are two kinds of practice that I want to quickly say. One is about our practice as clinicians. And the other is, of course, because alcohol is such an everyday matter, in our own lives. The tendency to base our behavior on myth is most evident in things like with alcohol. The other is on politics. And the third is on religion. Religion comes number one, actually, most of the time. Alcohol myths are not recognized even as much, or even 1/10 as much as political and religious myths, because it is part of the governing myth of the Western world. Those are not myths. Myths are what people in these underdeveloped countries believe in. I appeal to ourselves as a college that we need to spend more time on developing the small set of skills that allow us to make very simple, very profound changes with very simple interventions. Profound changes with very simple interventions. We are at risk as a profession of continually de-skilling ourselves until very quickly, very soon, in another 10 or 20 years, we will be like neurologists, able only to prescribe. Then this profession is not necessary, right? We are collectively de-skilling ourselves, and the West is leading the way. We have to protect these capabilities, at least here, because they are getting de-skilled. That's another matter. So let's learn this, and this session is not the time for me to share how to develop those skills, but it is an appeal to the college. And to be able to do this, we have to recognize that there are some obstacles to overcome, which I have listed here. from clinician to personal life, if you have read that, this is one thing that we need, all of us, to do, which is to let the science, which is not rocket science, become part of people's everyday understanding, right? Machang, the best times drinking for 90% of consumers is while your blood alcohol is 0. Just look at yourself from today. If your blood alcohol is 0 but you don't have a glass in your hand, it doesn't become a good time. So you still need that trigger, right? You need that sip. You need to know you have consumed. Until that happens, you're not allowed to get in that door. It's only to open that door that we need the drink. Until we foolishly make ourselves reliant on the chemical stimulus which comes hour after starting to drink. And a few other things that we might like to take on board in all settings where we have others drinking with us. First is to disallow or prohibit pretense by oneself. Don't pretend. If you are not enjoying the beverage, even the taste qualities of the beverage, don't pretend to enjoy it. Nobody is going to kill you. There will be one fool who will drown you out if you actually say it. But the rest, when it is a shared secret, will not side with the fool. Right? Recognize the real benefits versus the placebo. One of the major benefits of alcohol, I would put it to you, is for those of us who lead utterly boring, monotonous, meaningless lives, to show ourselves, ade we are having a good time also, macha. See, we drink. The lesion is not noticed then. The lesion, the lacuna in one's life. Because we cover it up like our bloody face masks with the drink, right? Oh yeah, come macha. An even more boring, monotonous pastime than the boring, monotonous life that one is trying to escape from. Enjoying opportunities to the full, by that I mean enjoying the opportunities to make fun of the big show that is made of an entirely simple, straightforward act. Anybody can open his lips and drink, or hers. It's not a big deal. It's not some major achievement. Everybody can, right? Laugh at the rituals. Call them out. And of course, control the nasties. That is more fun than pretending to be experiencing things that you're not. That's much more fun. That is why I'm actually not very happy that the college stopped serving alcohol at its sessions, because it gives you opportunities to observe this rubbish, right? And to observe the effort that people have to make to show you that they're having fun. Please reintroduce this back into our things as an educational measure. And it will lead to lots of health gains as well. Thank you. My time is up.
Thank you, sir, for that excellent talk.